Nebraska, and we are going to go ahead and get started. We are going to start with 3 poll questions during my introduction to find out who is in our audience. The first question is, what type of company? Please choose the one that best fits your company: business, nonprofit, consulting firm and independent contractor, school, public education, or other. If you choose other, please enter the type of company you classify yourself in the chat box. This is our 6th installment of the 2015 webinar series, Building Better Communities. For a complete listing of remaining topics, visit our website, wastecapne.org, and look under the events section on our homepage. Our corporate sponsor for the series is Lindsay Corporation, and it is partially funded by a grant from the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality and a Partners in Education grant from the Nebraska Academy of Sciences. So let us look at the poll results from our first question. And so 57% are businesses, 23% are nonprofits, we have 3% consulting, and 17% other. And I'm not seeing that anyone entered anything in the chat box as to what their other was. So our next poll question is the number of facilities. And let me find it here. One facility, which would be small, under 20 people. One facility, which would be medium, under 500. One facility, large. Multiple facilities in the United States, or international facilities. Please answer what is most appropriate for your facility. WasteCap Nebraska is a statewide, member-based nonprofit that works with community and business leaders to build zero-waste communities. Our mission is to eliminate waste in Nebraska through innovation, education, and policy change. During today's webinar, participants will learn about the requirements and process for obtaining a zero-waste business facility certification, and hear some great examples of how businesses have achieved this destination and saved money. Whether your company is just starting a recycling program or has more advanced sustainability programs, you will find this a valuable session on how to increase your bottom line, productivity, and environmental stewardship. So let's look at the results of our second poll. And we have 50% that are just one facility, small, under 20. We have 11% that are medium, 11% that are large, 22% that are multiple facilities in the United States, and 6% that are international. So if we go to our third poll question, which would be diversion for landfill and incineration waste to energy. Your choices for this answer are 0 to 24%, 25 to 49%, 50 to 74%, 75 to 89, or 90% and over. Stephanie Barger founded the United States Zero Waste Business Council in January of 2012 to meet the growing need for educational resources, peer-to-peer networking, and third-party certification for businesses across the nation. She has more than 25 years of experience in environmental stewardship, employee training, management consulting, and business relationship development. Stephanie holds a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from San Diego State University. In her spare time, she raises guide dog puppies for the blind and advocates for humane treatment of all creatures, great and small. During the webinar, please type your questions in the chat box as they come to mind, and there will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. A recording of this presentation will be available afterwards on our website in the archives at www.wastecapne.org. Before I turn the presentation over to Mrs. Barger, I want to take a look at the results from the final poll question. So 22% are at 0 to 24%, 9% are at 25 to 49, 39% are at 50 to 74, 4% are at 75 to 89, and 26% are at 90% and over. Thank you again for attending this webinar, and as I turn the presentation over, there will be a slight delay before Ms. Barger begins.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. This is Stephanie Barger with the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this webinar and hopefully take away valuable tools for helping your business. As an overview for the webinar, we're going to discuss first, why is zero waste important to businesses in our communities? And then we'll give a quick overview of the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council facility certification, the process, and then also our professional training program, Zero Waste Business Associate. And then we'll delve into the Zero Waste Facility Scorecard and provide valuable examples. And we're reserving about 10 minutes at the end for question and answer. Please enter your questions into the appropriate box on the webinar. So why do companies need and become zero waste? The benefits, of course, is they save money, and that's one of our big focuses is to track and educate businesses on how to track their savings, and also, more importantly, change their trash into valuable income. It reduces your liability. You're removing toxins from your company, and therefore reducing that liability. Also, many banks and insurance companies are either looking favorably at companies that have sustainability practices or actually requiring that for reduced rates. And of course, you increase your efficiency. If you have large amounts of trash, it usually means that you are handling your products and packaging several times. And there's a lot of unnecessary packaging. So you can really help your employees become more efficient by decreasing that time with the packaging. And then it reduces your greenhouse gas emissions, and it gives you a marketing edge. More than ever, our consumers are looking for businesses that are doing good and helping the environment, helping their local communities, and helping with the social and human rights issues. And then, of course, clean energy saves energy. And it's the right thing to do. A lot of our businesses really understand that in this day and age, we all need to play a very critical role in environmental stewardship. So we have based our zero waste policies and practices on one of the leaders in the industry, the Zero Waste International Alliance, who's been around for about 30 years. And they've spent a lot of time and energy working on the zero waste definition. And this is the only peer-reviewed, international peer-reviewed definition for zero waste. What's important here is how we look at our trash. We want all discarded materials to be designed to become resources for others. So we need to switch that around and look at trash as valuable commodities. And then, of course, we want to design and manage our products so they're never being able to get into landfill and incineration. And that means about taking out the toxicity and conserving and recovering all of our resources. So, a critical piece there is plastics. So if our plastics can easily be made back into new products by either sorting by the type of plastic or eliminating heavy toxins, that really helps increase our efficiency. And then implementing zero waste will eliminate all discharges to land, water, and air that are a threat to humans and animal and plant health. This is really the zero waste to the environment. And this is probably the hardest to achieve, but it has the biggest impact. So this is really where we need to work with the designers of products and really help them understand what their impact is. The goal with not only our organization, but everybody working in the zero waste arena is to build a zero waste economy. And this is sometimes the biggest struggle for businesses that are trying to achieve zero waste. The infrastructure does not exist. Composting facilities do not exist. The jobs do not exist. The education. The cities and government agencies maybe aren't educated or have the bandwidth to support businesses. So this is our end goal, is to create a zero waste economy for all and to bring in nonprofits and government agencies and all level of businesses, to bring in our colleges and universities to really help move this forward. Because zero waste means green businesses and jobs. The more that we can take these valuable resources out of our landfills and out of our incinerators, we can create more jobs. And as the slide shows, for landfilling 10,000 tons of solid waste, that only supports one job. If we move up the hierarchy in reuse, we can create 25 to 250 jobs out of that same amount of solid waste. And I think a lot of people don't understand how large the recycling industry. It's the size of the auto industry, and yet probably nationwide we're only recycling 30% of these resources. So if we can increase that to 50, 60, 70%, we can have a really strong economy and many jobs at all different levels. Part of the reason that we created the Zero Waste Business Council is because there wasn't a designation specifically geared to educating and helping businesses get to zero waste. And there was a lot of different definitions of what zero waste meant. So we hope through our programs and processes that we are setting standards so that companies can compare themselves in a very transparent and comprehensive way. Here's just a sampling of the companies that are leading the way in zero waste. These companies, most of them have gone through our zero waste certification. And just to clarify, zero waste businesses, the goal and the vision is always to achieve 100% diversion. 90% is the minimum requirement in order to qualify for our certification. So that's just the baseline of where companies want to go. So our goal and vision at the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council is to create a solid foundation that advances the integrity and credibility of zero waste. There's a lot of myths and misconception on how much it costs a company to achieve zero waste, the benefits, and what's really happening to the recycling and composting. So our goal is to add that transparency, provide that support. We're following the U.S. Green Building Council model, meaning that we are providing a scorecard that goes way beyond diversion and allows companies many opportunities to take credit for the good work they're doing. We are at this time only certifying facilities. We are not certifying products or services, so we're certifying the operations of a company, and this follows the Zero Waste International Alliance. And then we do offer professional accreditation. Right now we have our Zero Waste Business Associate, and we are working on our advanced accreditation for professionals. So here's just an example. Whole Foods Market, they were the first to receive our certification. This is for their retail stores in the Southern California region, and they have reached the 90%. And their goal as a company is to have 90% of their stores reach 90% by 2017. And so this requires a lot of training, a lot of working with our haulers and recyclers to re-educate them and to work together in support. The La Jolla store has reached 93% diversion, and we now have over 15 stores certified in the SoCal region. I think what's impressive here is because they are a grocery store and a restaurant and prepared foods, they have to work a lot with the consumers in educating the consumers, and then they do not have control of what the consumers are bringing into the stores. So they're also having to work with and analyze on a daily basis what consumers are bringing into their store that they don't really have any control over. Our shining star is Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. They were the first to go through our full scorecard certification in November 2013, and they received the highest level, the platinum level. They're at 99.8% diversion. But what really makes them a shining star is they know they can't stop there, and there's many other things that they can do to decrease not only their impact on landfill incineration and the environment, but to work upstream and help increase reducing, reusing, and building jobs and helping their local community become zero waste. So the U.S. facility certification, as I stated before, the minimum requirement is that a company is diverting 90% from landfill incineration in the environment for non-hazardous solid waste. We do, as I'll discuss later, look at hazardous solid waste, but we're really only talking about solid waste that would go to landfill incineration. The data provided to the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council is published formally and documents at least one base year and measurements. And then we require certification every 3 years with a check-in on an annual basis. So the facility certification process is on our website. The first step is to fill out an application for a quote. And this is because every business is a different size. So we're not going to charge a small retail outlet the same as we would charge a large manufacturing plant. So we ask people to fill out the application, which details how many employees, square footage, number of acres, what their process is. Then once you review that and you pay your certification fee, you receive the facility scorecard. And then we are here to support you, and we'll walk you through the scorecard and help with any questions that you might have along the way. And you need to think of this just like an accounting audit. So we're going to go in and look at whatever you've told us, and then we need supporting documentation. And so that includes everything from your trash bills, your recycling bills, what your training practices are, what your zero waste purchasing policies. So really providing all that documentation. We do have non-disclosure agreements for those items that you do not want disclosed to the public. Then we come out and we do an on-site audit. And this is where our validator comes out, and they bring the scorecard and your documentation, and we thoroughly walk through the site, and we interview your employees. We look through your trash. We look through your recycling. We observe what is going on and revalidate everything that's happening. So we're not only looking to see what you're doing, but we also provide opportunities to improve your zero waste program. And that's probably one of the key things that all of our businesses appreciate about our facility certification process, because we provide information at the end of the certification process to take you to the next level. Then once you receive your certification and the final scorecard validation, we will work with you to help publicize and celebrate your certification. So now we're going to go into the facility scorecard. And we did provide a handout on the webinar. This is our summary checklist. And this is an overview of the scorecard and analyzes all the categories and credits. And what I encourage every company to do at whatever level you're at, even if you're at 2% diversion, is to take this summary checklist and use it as your zero waste plan. You can just start asking and going through your company and saying, what are we doing and what are we not doing? And pick 2 or 3 things to start working on. So of course we have basic requirements. We want to know that you do have a zero waste policy in place, that your ultimate goal is 100% diversion. And then as discussed before, the baseline is 90% diversion. And that you're willing to publish your data formally with the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council and provide a case study. And this is because we want to provide information to the rest of the nation and all businesses to encourage them and provide really good examples on helping them achieve zero waste. Because once again, our goal is to help create a zero waste economy for all. We do ask for a minimum of 12 months data showing that you are at your 90% and above. So just quickly, I want to go over our Zero Waste Business Associate Program, and this ties in directly to businesses that are on their journey to zero waste. We know that a lot of times businesses do not have the bandwidth or the knowledge and experience to move their company towards zero waste. So we are creating a whole workforce of zero waste business associates that have been through our training and have completed and passed our test. This allows them to understand what zero waste means, the hierarchy, and how to adopt and develop a zero waste plan for your company. So we do have a map on our website of all the zero waste business associates, and we hope that you'll reach out to them and they can help you with your certification process. Just as a reminder, our Zero Waste Business Associates do not conduct the audits. They are the implementers of zero waste. So here is an overview of our scorecard for our certification system. And once again, this is set up much like the U.S. Green Building Council. And we did this to become familiar with businesses that are already on their path to sustainability. So we also set up a scorecard because our goal is not to focus on diversion, and it's not about taking your trash and putting it in a recycling bin. It's about developing a very comprehensive, sustainable program that involves every single department and works with your vendors and your customers, and also supports the hierarchy of zero waste. We actually have over 20 R's supporting zero waste, and a few are highlighted here. And most of these are upstream R's: redesign, reduce, reuse, zero waste reporting, leadership training, analysis, upstream management, zero waste purchasing, because that's where the big money is. You can save money by recycling and even make money by recycling. But a perfect example is Toyota. They were saving $1 million by recycling their cardboard, but they switched to reusable shipping containers and saved $13 million. And that's really what we're here to support, is to help you save money and become more efficient. So redesign. This is really about redesigning your trash system. It's important that we work closely with our haulers, recyclers, and other vendors and develop programs that are win-win for everyone. It's not about putting landfill operators and haulers out of business. It's about helping them recreate their business model and providing them with valuable resources that they can recycle and compost. It's also about helping the business make sure that their bins are right-sized. A lot of times you're being over-serviced. You have too many trash bins or recycling bins, and really making sure it's appropriate, not only outside your facility with dumpsters and compactors, but inside your facility with right-sizing your internal composting, recycling, and trash bins. So just as a couple of examples is to create contract incentives with your vendors and really reviewing all your agreements and knowing when your contracts are coming up. So it's an opportunity to rewrite your contracts when they're coming up for renewals. And then we want to incentivize both parties to reduce wasting. And if your waste hauls recyclables, then getting paid for sorting your recyclables. The more a company can sort, the more we are helping the environment, the more we're creating jobs, and the more we are supporting a sustainable economy. And then number 3, the 9 generation points. And the purpose of this is to make sure we're looking at every single area and we're not just looking in the dumpster at the end of the day. So we want to go to every department. We want to go to warehousing and distribution, your offices, your food services. And you might not have a large cafeteria, but you might have a break room. And you can really look at ways just even there about reducing and reusing. And then looking at your grounds, our grass clippings and what type of landscape has a big impact on what we're sending to compost and to landfill incineration. And then if your company is doing a lot of construction, either expanding or even rebuild, there's opportunities there. The next credit is reduce. And one of the things is really documenting and tracking what you have reduced. And once again, this is where a lot of the big money is made and saved. And there's a lot of great tools out there like LeanPath, TrendTracks. Kaizen is what a lot of the Japanese companies use. It's more of a mindset, but there's also policies and procedures to go along with that. So here's an example from Ricoh Electronics, and a lot of times your reduction benefits you in many ways. So they were using individual chemical cans to get their resources. And they went back to their vendor and said, can you put them in reusable drums? So by doing that, they not only reduced their labor time, but more importantly, they eliminated their hazardous waste bill because they were no longer dumping these small cans into their hazardous waste bin. They were returning these drums, and so they were reducing all that. And then reuse. And this is everything from simple programs in your break rooms and common areas, getting your employees to either bring in their own coffee cups or providing that to them. And also reuse is in donation, donating to animals and donating to humans for consumption. Here's an example from Earth Friendly Products. Their products were arriving from their vendors in cardboard boxes, and then they were recycling them. But they realized from their staff that these boxes were the same that they were sending out to their vendors. So they just started reusing these boxes, and then they took the time to cut up old cardboard boxes and use them as inserts. So once again, listening to your employees and being innovative and saving money. Composting, or what we like to call re-earth, because this is the goal, is to get it back to our farms and create new soil. Recycling, we have identified 12 market categories, and once again, zero waste is not about just putting it in the recycling bin, but really getting to know your trash and breaking it down and identifying it. So here's a list of some of the 12 market categories, and putting in and seeing what are your reuse, how much paper do you have, how much metal, how much glass. And one of the benefits to this is really identifying what 60% of your waste is made out of and really focusing on that and getting that reduced and reused and recycled. Sometimes the hard to recycle items, you can put those aside for a while and really focus on the ones that are going to have the biggest impact. Zero waste reporting. So there's lots of really great tools out there. We work with the U.S. EPA Waste Rights Program and the WARM model. These provide a lot of great tools and a lot of feedback on where you're at and what you're doing. And once again, most companies have not been tracking to this level of their avoidable costs from diversion efforts, their revenue from recycling, and what their landfill costs are. And those landfill costs can be reduced, of course, through recycling and reduce and reuse, but more importantly, by just right-sizing and understanding how much volume or tonnage you really have. And then diversion from landfill, incineration, and the environment. So unlike a lot of the other certification programs out there that only focus on your diversion level, we only have one category and 5 potential credits for diversion. It is important to track this, and we also not only track what's being sent for recycling and composting, but what's being donated, what's being reduced, and what's being reused. Because recycling doesn't get you to zero waste. And it's once again about knowing your trash and not just knowing that there's a lot of number 1 plastics, but what are those number 1 plastics made out of, and what can you do to reduce and reuse them. Zero waste purchasing, this is key. If you want to know what's going into your trash and recycling, go talk to your purchasers. And you can basically go zero waste through your purchasing department, because if everything that's coming in can be reduced, returned, reused, recycled, or composted, then you're not going to have anything going to landfill or incineration. Procter & Gamble actually saved $1 billion through their zero waste purchasing. Also, this really helps drive the market of how our products are designed, and if they're designed for a closed-loop society. And then leadership is one of the most important keys. What happens with companies most of the time is they have a great recycling coordinator or even a great sustainability team. But if the president and the CEO and the board of directors are not supportive and educated about zero waste, it can really stifle the efforts, not only because they're not supportive, but they're not providing the information that's needed. They're not requiring the marketing department to get involved. They're not requiring the accounting and the purchasing department to get involved. And we've done this with a lot of companies, and the change and the quickness of the change by having the CEO announce out to the company that this is their goal and this is what needs to happen makes a big difference versus a recycling coordinator. Simple examples of having employees turn off their computers and use e-fax and get away from a lot of the paper-driven policies. By having the VP of their IT department send out a memo was the most effective way to get people to do it versus the green team asking everybody to do that. We also want the company to get very involved in their local community. So credit number 6 is about understanding what are the environmental issues and human rights and social issues that your community is involved with and needs help in creating change. And once again with RICO, having the president involved was essential to doing this. And the president actually comes into all their facilities and he asks the employees how they are practicing zero waste. So this means every single employee needs to be trained and educated. But more importantly, they reward their employees for coming up with innovative ways for zero waste. And they actually have no trash cans. They have what is called unidentified recyclables, and then they have a team supporting that. And leadership, of course, is critical for allocating funds for training and for building a training program. And for most companies, they already have training programs for zero accidents, zero customer complaints, zero product defects. So the Human Resource Department can integrate the zero waste training in with all of their other training programs. And like anything, this needs to be constant, repetitive, encouraging, and fun. I think that's the main thing that people sometimes miss out on environmental training, is to have the employees get engaged, encourage their ideas. They're the ones that are handling the materials every day. They know the processes. They know what's being wasted. They know what's keeping them back from being the most efficient that they can be. So that encouragement and that outlet and posting things on their internal website and making it very available to them. I also encourage companies that it's great to have a zero waste team and have zero waste meetings or green meetings, but more importantly, every single meeting that your company has, just put on the agenda sustainability or zero waste. That way, every department is focusing on it for a couple minutes or 5 minutes at every single meeting. So here's an example from Sierra Nevada Brewery on their sustainability, and it's not just about zero waste, it's about getting their employees to bicycle and all kinds of fun things that help their health and help the environment. So one of the things is getting people to participate and reminding them to use the reusable coffee mugs and water bottles. Another thing is making sure that it's very easy for your employees to participate in the zero waste program. So having things very well labeled, and I always encourage to always have a cluster with your trash, your recycling, and your composting. If your trash can is 10 feet or 20 feet from your composting bin, people are probably not going to walk over and do it. So convenient and easy. There's a great organization called stopwaste.org that provides lots of educational posters and stickers for you. Next is zero waste analysis, and this once again is really getting down and dirty and understanding what is in your trash. So going to the back of the house and looking at your receivers and looking at everything that's coming in to your company and then breaking it down into every individual part and every individual piece of packaging. That's how you can go back and figure out the best ways to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And then working with your upstream management, as we discussed with zero waste purchasing, what comes in is what goes out. And so involving your suppliers in your process, in your zero waste program, and making requirements that 100% of the packaging is made from recycled material and able to be recycled. And it's not about it happening today or tomorrow, but it's about setting that standard and that goal, incentivizing your vendors to work with you. So here's the RICO's recipe for success. And with any plan and working with your vendors, it's about setting objectives, having leadership involved, training and promotion, and the 5R concept, which is your reduce, reuse, recycle, return. And then what's also important is continually verifying. Are your employees putting recycling in the recycling bin, compost in the compost bin? Can they donate it before they put it in the compost bin? Even your recycling bin, if you have binders and clips and staplers and everything like that that are still working, can you give them to a local charity versus putting them in the recycling bin? And then the goal is to look every single day at how you can continuously improve and focus on those upstream R's and coming up with new upstream R's to encourage. And then total participation. Once again, you want your vendors involved. You want every single employee involved, from the receptionist to the CEO. You want your janitorial service involved. You want your customers involved. So the more that everybody's able to provide input and suggestions and see those suggestions taken seriously and implemented, that's where the real bang for your buck comes in. Hazardous waste, although we are not tracking hazardous waste in your diversion, we know it is very, very important to creating a zero waste economy. We need to reduce the amount of hazardous waste and make sure it's properly handled. We also understand that across the nation there's different laws and regulations for computers, for light bulbs, for paints, and so we want to help companies take that leadership and really make sure that those items are not getting into the landfill and that they're properly disposed of. The great thing that companies can do is actually be a collection center for their community and for their employees. They can have e-waste drives. They can have paint drives. They can have drives for eyeglasses and donate them to the local Lions Club. Because a lot of times it's very hard for our employees and even our community to gather enough to make it worthwhile to drive to the hazardous waste drop-off. Or to gather enough to be able to donate, or even knowing where to donate. And then most importantly, the reason that we are working towards zero waste is to create a closed loop society. So it's great if you're putting items in the recycling bin, but if you're not buying items made from recycled material, you're not driving that market. You're not supporting those processors who are changing your discarded paper into new paper. And even if it costs a little more, that's where our investment needs to be. Because like with anything, the more demand we have for recycled content, the lower the price will be. This is also why it's critical that we source separate. The more that you can source separate, especially the majority of your items, and get those paper directly to the paper processor, glass to the glass processor, the less contamination there is and the higher value that material is, so we can really keep just reusing these materials and repurposing them over and over again. And we, of course, always want to drive our local market, so we do have incentives and points for recyclers, businesses, that are looking to support their local community and getting processing plants back in their local community. The other thing is innovation. So what can we do to upcycle our products? Once again, using Ricoh Electronics, one of their packaging materials was rubber stoppers, and they really didn't know what to do with them. Well, they figured out it was eraser material, so they actually took them and donated them to the local community. And the reuse and repurpose industry is growing by leaps and bounds. And I just applaud those companies that even with their internal decoration, instead of going out and buying new furniture, they're repurposing old furniture and fixing it up and repairing. And that's a great new R, is repairing instead of even recycling. And then once again, continuous improvement, looking every single day at how we can make those little changes. And don't ever downsize any little option that an employee wants to make. Because even something as simple as reusing coffee cups and having reusable coffee cups and reusing water bottles, that makes a huge difference, not only in the impact on the environment, but creating a new mindset and creating behavioral change. And then we, of course, have not and do not know all the great activities that are out there. So we want to see what you have come up with, what innovative activity you have, where you have thought outside of the box. And we want to recognize that and congratulate that. So that's the end of my presentation, and I just really want to emphasize that although this webinar was about our certification, I hope any business, small, medium, large, if you have one facility, if you're at 5%, 20%, 89.9%, that you'll take these ideas and just implement 1 or 2 actions, every quarter, every 6 months, and make the difference. And then most importantly, as a nonprofit, we are your nonprofit. We are here to support you. We have webinars, we have resources. We want to know what you need to help you on your journey to zero waste. So thank you so much again for your time. As we know, it's all valuable in investing not only in your own business, but in your local community. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Heather for question and answer.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your great presentation. I do have some questions. The first one is, can you provide a copy of these slides as a handout?
Heather, I'll let you. I think, Heather, you're doing a recording and going to be passing that out to everybody.
Yes, I can do that, definitely. My second question is, earlier in the presentation, you discussed one peer-reviewed journal article about zero waste. Can you provide the title of that article and any other information that would be helpful in finding that article?
Sure. It's not an article. It's a peer-reviewed definition of zero waste. And this is through the Zero Waste International Alliance. And their website is zwia.org. And they also have a lot of very valuable resources on there. Another great organization, too, is the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and that was on the Green Business and Jobs page, and their website is ilsr.org. They have, their main focus is research and documenting all the benefits of zero waste and sustainability. So I encourage you to go to their website too for a lot of very comprehensive reports and white papers.
And then the next question, Stephanie, is can you comment on the differences between zero waste and the zero landfill certifications and claims by companies?
Sure. The thing is we want to encourage everybody to take those steps. So what zero waste to landfill really came out with a lot of the Japanese companies because they have very limited landfill space. So a lot of the Toyotas and Ricoh Electronics and everything, they had zero waste to landfill mandates because they were, Japanese companies. So they wanted to get to that goal of zero to landfill. Unfortunately, what a lot of our zero waste to landfill companies have found out is when they're sending to waste to energy incineration, the ash actually goes back to the landfill. So they're truly not zero waste to landfill. Also, we are not about diversion. We're about upstream. So working on your reduce, reuse, rethink, redesign, refuse, return, repair, because that's where you're going to become a more efficient business, and that's where you're going to save money. And also about sort, sort, sort. So it's great if you're taking it from your trash to your recycling bin, but you need to sort because you can't understand what you need to reduce or reuse unless you understand what you're recycling and composting. So, the goal is to eventually eliminate recycling bins and composting bins. So once again, the zero waste to landfill is just that. That's companies that are claiming that they're not saying anything to landfill directly. And there's different certifications. Some of them are very stringent, and they're at the 90% also overall landfill to incineration. There's some that you can be zero waste to landfill and be, sending 60% to waste to energy. So it's important with not only our certification, but any certification that you're reading the fine print. The bigger thing is whether you're sending it to landfill or waste to energy incineration, you have a trash bill. And we want to eliminate that trash bill for many reasons that we talked about in the webinar.
And then, Stephanie, I have another question that wants to know your definition of incineration.
So that is on our website. So anaerobic digestion is of course not considered incineration. So there is a temperature, and I apologize, I think it's 200 degrees, I can get that and we can send that out to the group as there's an actual definition. I think it's on the Zero Waste International Alliance website for sure, and it should be posted on ours. So once again, if everything is recyclable and composted and compostable, why would we want to burn it? And anytime we're burying or burning, we are destroying jobs and good jobs, and we're destroying resources. Because even if we're creating energy, it means we have to go out and extract oil, natural gas, cut down trees, whatever that is, versus creating a closed loop economy. That's what we want. We want to close the loop.
So the next question I have says 75% of our waste stream is DAF sludge from our clean in place process. Can you suggest a cost-effective solution versus land application?
So that is a very detailed question. I'd love to answer it offline because part of it is looking upstream at your process and what is really in that sludge. So if we can take that offline, and we do not have all the answers, and that's why we have a great business advisor, and we collaborate with many of the other organizations. And I do have to say, not all of the answers are going to be easy, and that's where we all need to work together to find out what the answers are. It might be putting it through some type of anaerobic digestion. It might be cleaning out some toxins. And I have to say there's a lot of innovation going into what we can feed and what we can put back on our farms and everything like that. So as long as what we're putting back on the land is valuable soil and nutrients, that's not a bad thing. So without fully understanding that, you can email me or get a hold of Heather, and we can talk in more detail.
I have another question that says, our company already uses a third-party business that diverts our waste away from landfill. How does this impact the certification application?
We encourage you to work with different companies that are helping you identify what is going into your landfill incineration. So if you're working with a consultant that is helping you create your diversion spreadsheets, that's working with you on reduce, reuse, that's working with you on redesign, they would help you fill out our scorecard, and then we would just verify everything that you're doing. If you said that, is it meaning that you're working with another third-party certifier, that's great. If you want to get certified by us, you need to go through our scorecard process, and hopefully the information that they're doing can roll up into our scorecard process. And once again, although we'd love everybody to get certified, it's more important that you're taking our information and utilizing it to help your business get to zero waste.
And then I have another question that says, how does the baseline year take into account business growth, increases in number of employees, and operations?
So what we ask is that you fully disclose that, and then that when you're working on your diversion spreadsheets, that you're adjusting your diversion spreadsheets for that growth. So, because the zero waste diversion spreadsheets are not standardized, and I don't think they need to be because every company is different, what we ask is that you're proving to us what you're putting in your diversion spreadsheet. So, just because you're adding employees and adding new businesses, you can still work on reducing your diversion. And however we do look at that, like if we're seeing spikes going up and down one way or another, there might be, a perfect example is when somebody's doing a lot of renovation and then they have a huge spike in their recycling numbers because they're recycling all this construction material. Well, we want that fully disclosed, and then we review that in its entirety and then work through that.
And another question that we have is, how do you approach recyclables where there is no market? For example, like number 6, plastics.
The best thing to do with that is to reduce them. That's what a lot of our companies have done, is those problem materials. And that's really what zero waste is all about. If there is not a market and they're not truly recyclable, because for a product to be recyclable means there has to be a market and it has to be made into something that you can purchase back. Just being able to put it in a recycling bin does not make it recyclable. So most of our companies, if they're working with a product that is not easily recyclable or reusable or returnable, they eliminate it. However, once again, that's an opportunity, and that's why we say businesses are leading the way. And we've had many businesses that have had problem materials or where infrastructure does not exist, and they have worked with their local government and their state government and created new processes and created more jobs. So once again, think outside the box, either reduce, reuse, redesign, or look at a way to work with your local community. And local doesn't mean just in your town, it can be in your region. And there's some great organizations out there that work on developing markets.
Great. Stephanie, that's all the questions I have at this time. I want to thank you again for your time and your participation in our webinar. I want to remind everyone that the handout for the summary of certification checklist is in the handout section. So if you're interested in looking at that, you can find it there. I also want to remind everyone that following the webinar, you will be able to view the recorded version of the webinar on our website, and you can find it at www.wastecapne.org. If you go to the About Us section, and then it is in our archive. Again, thank you so much for your time, Stephanie.
Thank you, everyone.